You're a performer. You're famous. So my videographer and I were filming at the waterfall a couple months ago. We went to this coffee shop afterwards called the Dairy. It's a beautiful little town. It's called Gleno. We go into the coffee shop and we're sitting outside, sun shining down, beautiful, just banged out all of our videos. And I started talking to the camera, and Andrew has this big, massive monster of a camera. And then over my shoulder, there are these lovely little old Asian ladies, right? I think little old Asian women are so funny. They bring their camera everywhere with them. When I used to work in the Bamboo, the Cantonese restaurant, when I was like 17, they used to have these tours where I would have worked a Wednesday and a Sunday night, which I loved. They used to ask me, Daniel, can you come on Saturday? Sorry, I've got plans. Sorry, I've got homework. Sorry, my dinner's ready on Saturday night, actually. I would have done anything to do no work. And this is actually so bad. I could fess myself up. I didn't mean to get into this side of it, but they used to have these tours where they would go up to the Giant's Causeway, 3 busloads of Chinese people, and then they would bring them, stop outside the Bamboo. They would all come in masses, en masse, and they would be a big function room. And now they weren't getting chicken balls, salted chili chicken, bit of curry sauce. They were getting the real authentic shit, fish heads with oranges in them, and these guys were animals getting stuck in to plates of food that I didn't think were edible. Anyway, on these shifts, the food made me feel so sick. I just used to go into the back room and take out little WKDs and just drink them and sit and scroll my phone. And anytime the manager says, "Where's Daniel?" I just says, "Oh, sorry, my stomach was upset there." I see the IBS card. I used to use it all the time. Sorry, mate, my stomach was going there. Nobody could sit here. This is a lesson in life for you. See, if you want to get out of anything, you tell somebody you've got the shits. Nobody's saying anything. They just leave it at that. It is the goat card. Vomit and diarrhea leaves it at that. Anyway, and all these Chinese people, they all bring cameras. They take photos of the maddest things ever. I suppose I'm the same. When I went to America, I was taking photos of the buses, taking photos of the dumpsters. Like, who is this guy? Me giving off stick about the Chinese, taking photos of everything. Anyway, there were these lovely little Chinese ladies, and they turned around and they said, "Oh, look at your camera." And I just started laughing. And she says, and I was talking to the camera like this, and she says, "You're a performer." Andrew burst out laughing, and she says, "Oh, you're famous. You're famous." I like to think my impressions are pretty top notch. She says, "Oh, you're a performer." And she ran and got all the rest of the entourage, and they all came in and they were like, "Oh my God, you're famous." And they were all asking for photos. And I was like, "Mate, I'm just talking shite in my cax in that waterfall. There's nothing famous about what's going on here." But I was like, "Here, listen, I am a performer, so get that one up on the wall." Anyway, that was a segue. I have Tourette's where sometimes I just answer the phone and I shout, "Oh, you're a performer." Anyway, in today's potty, we're going to talk about the ultra marathon, baby. I feel I haven't really posted that much about it, yet I feel like I'm a broken record. I don't know why I get that sometimes, that people just want to say, "Daniel, shut up." Maybe that's just the internal voice. But anyway, I'm going to take you through the ultra marathon, the highs, the lows. Was it difficult? Why did I actually want to do it? Like, where's the compulsion to doing these difficult things? What made me sign up for it in the first place? Was I trying to prove it to somebody else? And throughout the race, what did I actually think about? What were the music podcasts I was listening to? And at what stage did the race actually start to hurt and did it get difficult? So I suppose let's swing her back to last year. Yeah, let's sling her back to last year. I was at a mentorship event in Marbella. Marbello, as my American friend Brian calls it. Dude, are you going to Marbello this year? Yes, I'm going to Marbello. And you had to give your one big goal that you want to achieve for the following year. And for me, like, I always say, I'm very transparent. I think it's important to try and make as much money as possible so that you can live the best life that you can. 3 things that I care about in life. Well, not 3 things, but 3 things when it comes to setting goals. Number one, seeing our guys change their lives. Number two, making as much money as I can so that I can live a life of freedom. I grew up and seen my mum and dad being able to go where they want when they want because they worked really hard for that, and I want to emulate that. Okay, and never feel, again, reminder, said this in another podcast, never feel bad for wanting to make more money so that you can live a life that you love for you and for your family. Amen. And also doing difficult things and proving to myself that I am not a bitch. And I don't know where this came from. I so I oh, I forgot to tell you this as well. So when I was on the flight back from Colorado, I was sat beside this lovely guy and we were chatting away, and he, I says, what is it you do? And I was filming a video and he asked what I was doing. I says, I'm an online fitness coach. I make videos online as well, and I have a podcast. If you want to take your own life at some stage, you can tune in. And he didn't really give much away. And like usually, I'm very very inquisitive. I was tired. It was late. And I honestly, I just wanted to sleep. And he was the same. Listen, we knew what the crack was. Quick chat, take it easy, mate. But this guy was very interesting. And he says, I've toured all around the world. And I didn't want to ask, what band are you in? Because I'm not really familiar with bands. And do you know when someone says, oh, this is the name of the band, and I don't know it? I was like, nah, I'm not going to say that. Usually I wouldn't care, but I said no. I will just leave it at that. Anyway, we had like an hour and a half left before we landed, and we were chatting away, going on really well with this guy. I'm thinking, me and my new mate, we're kind of hitting it off here. Are we gonna go for pints when we get to London? Is this a thing now? Are we best mates? Do you want to do karate in the garage? There's so much room for activities. Step Brothers, if you haven't watched it, you need to have a long hard look at yourself. So I get off and I say, here, let me get your Instagram here. And I said, oh, your band's probably on Spotify, I'm assuming. Idiot. And he says, yeah, fired in here. And I says, yeah, go ahead. And he says, it's Kooks. I says, the Cooks? He says, yeah, that's it. I says, like, the Cooks. And he says, yeah. I was like, bro, you're so famous. Like, that's huge. I was sat beside this guy the entire time. I didn't know. And he was a drummer in the band, The Cooks. Traveled all around the world with him, and actually got to the stage where he ended up having some sort of, not disorder, but some sort of impairment with his arm where he couldn't play anymore, and he ended up touring with just playing with one arm, and then ended up calling it quits. But lovely guy, lives in London. If you're watching this, you're probably not. I would be impressed. Big love to the big man. Anyway, trying to think of my trail of thought there, how I actually got onto that in the first place. See, I do this, I go on so many tangents. Anyway, so last year I set the goal of wanting to do an ultramarathon, and I said I want to do a 50 miler because last year I done the David Goggins challenge, and I think it's really important for you to do things which stretches your fabric of what you believe you're capable of doing. If you look in the podcast in the about section, it says we're here to stretch the fabric of what you're capable of in the next 80 years, and I'm still staying true to that. Years ago, oh, sorry, that's why the guy from the Cooks, he said to me, Daniel, where does this compulsion come to do really difficult things? Because I told him about the ultramarathon. He says, where does it come from? It's not normal. And I said, well, firstly, I thought it was normal, or it is normal. I don't think it's outlandish. And I said to him, this is going to be really deep, but about 6-7 years ago, I actually tried to take my own life, and I was taking drugs at the weekend. I was drinking often, and I had zero spine, and I had the discipline and willpower of a dead dog. I was probably a pretty poor person to be around, and I didn't love what I seen in the mirror, and I seen myself as the weakest man on this earth. And when you get to that position, and then you get 10 miles out of the forest, you're no longer there. I wanted to prove to myself that that's not who I am. And I think I ran so far away from it. I think it's important to have something to run towards in life, be inspired, think, dream big, but also I was running away from something. And I think that's where it came from, doing the difficult things. Hold on. Little Club Zero going on the hatch here, baby. And I said to him that from being so low and so weak, I want to prove to other people that you could get to such a dark place and completely change your life. And I believe that that's not just for me, that's for every single person. And if you listen to this podcast, I want you to realize that no matter how low you've ever gotten, no matter how low you are or you get, that you can become bulletproof between the ears. And here's one thing that I really got wrong. I used to listen to David Goggins when I was doing my 5 a.m. runs when I was like 18, because there was a while where I was dialed in. I mean, I just found drugs and fucked it. I used to listen to David Goggins and says, oh my God, this guy is like stone, like heart of ice in the veins. He doesn't feel emotion. And I got it wrong. I thought that's what discipline was, being able to just be emotionless. I realize now that it's not. Discipline, being resilient, it's feeling the emotion and doing it anyway. You know that Monday morning where you don't want to get up when the alarm goes off at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning, and you think, oh no, you had a really good weekend and you can't be arsed going to work and talking to that ball bag coworker. You can't be arsed going to the gym. You don't feel like it. When you show up and you follow through on that, you're gonna become stronger off the back of it. We've all been there. If you follow through, that part of your brain is going to get stronger. That discipline, that willpower muscle, it's going to get stronger. I actually completely lost my trail of thought there. You probably picked up on that as well. Do you know what? I think when you haven't shot a solo, I haven't shot a solo episode here in 2 weeks. I actually was in the gym this morning and I met David. Shout out David in my fit, and David had listened to my podcast for a long time. He says, you know, you stopped the podcast for a while. I said, yeah, I did. I honestly just didn't think anybody was really listening to it. And I was using it initially for like Instagram clips, but I missed it. I missed talking to the few people that I thought were listening. I missed doing that. I missed airing my thoughts and getting people's feedback. And I realized that when I stopped it, that some of you guys actually, they did listen to it. And I thought, no, do you know what? I'm getting back on this game. I'm getting back on it. So let me actually get into why I'm here in the first place. But as I said, when you stop doing podcasts for a while, your brain definitely goes blank. For sure. But your boy's human. So, Misogi, I set that goal to do something difficult every single year. I had a football manager when I was younger, and he says, Daniel, you're admiring the pass. I used to play a pass down the line and like just look at it and admire it, and I used to think, fuck, I am the bee's knees. And then he used to scream, Daniel, stop admiring your pass. And that's a great metaphor for later in life, that you cannot rest on your laurels. You cannot admire the pass of your previous endeavors. You can't look at what you achieved last year, the year before, and years, and even in high school. I speak to some people and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I was always in great shape in high school. I'm like, man, you're out of school 10 years. You can't talk about high school. That's irrelevant. And that resume, that life resume, you continually have to update that. And for me, identity is a really, really big part of my life. And I think that when there is a big gap between who you are and what you can be, that eats away your confidence. And I think when you close the gap, like if you're listening to this podcast now, right? I want you to think of what you can be, what you could achieve, what kind of shape you could be what kind of shape you could be in, and then look at where you're at right now. If there's a big gap between where you're at and where you want to go, your job in the next year is to close that gap. And when I do difficult things like this ultramarathon, all it is just a reminder that I am who I say I am. Because there are times where I wake up, like the other day, I woke up and I really couldn't be fucked getting and doing a cold shower. I didn't want to do it. And then I start to think, I'm put on this discipline, this willpower persona, and I'm not even living up to it. I'm not even living up to it. And that thought alone, where I'm standing there looking at that shower, that alone carries me through to do it. And I wanted to do an ultramarathon because I suck balls at running. I really, really suck balls at running. I used to do it when I was younger, but I just hate long distance running. I think it's boring. I don't know. I always said, people enjoy running their school shooters, but I do get it now. I really, really do. And to be really frank with you, when I was doing the run, people said, "What did you enjoy it?" I said, I'll be really honest with you, right? There was a few things happening in my personal life, and nothing crazy, but it was taking up some of my bandwidth, and I would usually be very good at just putting things out of my head, but for whatever reason, I couldn't, and I didn't rest. I wasn't really sleeping that well, and I was actually really stressed out one day. And sometimes you get that, no matter what you do, you're just gonna get stressed out. It's gonna happen, right? For me, the one thing that completely just numb your mind and just take your mind off everything is two things for me. It's cold water and it's running. When I'm running, you're only thinking about just pounding the pavement. You're only thinking about getting to the next stop. You're thinking about just getting your breath right. You're thinking about your stride. Nothing else. Nothing else. And I think that's beautiful. But I also do think, on long runs like that, it gives you time to think. So I want you to ask yourself, what can you do that allows you to mentally check out at times? Because I think that is healthy too. What's a de-stressor for you? Maybe not even a de-stressor. What's something that allows you just for a little bit of breathing space? So locked in the ultra, it wasn't a race by any means with anybody else. I was just doing it myself. I said that last year and I was going to follow through with it. And I'll be honest, I was dreading doing it. I thought, oh, I can't be arsed doing this. But I said I was gonna, and I'm gonna follow through, and that's why it's really important to tell other people what you want to do, provided that you're gonna follow through with it. Because once you shake somebody's hand on it, you ain't going back. You ain't going back. It's like when I meet people in public and they want to start coaching or start posting videos. I'll say, okay, I want you to post every day for 100 days, and I get them to shake my hand, and I says, now before you shake my hand, just know that once you do this, you have made a moral commitment as a man to me. And they look at me like, oh, and I'm like, bro, can I smell a turd running down your legs here? Anyway, so the biggest worry about doing the run was actually just, yeah, as I said, like just cacking my pants. I obviously had the run before last year at 5 a.m. when your boy had to go, and it was not a pretty sight. Whatever you think it was, times it by 100. It was 5:30 in the morning. My bags were around my ankles, and I was just praying to God, please, please, nobody walk past. This was on the main street in Temple Patrick in the little village that I live in. 5:30, nobody's gonna be there. All of a sudden, I hear footsteps, and by the way, when I say I cropped my pants, it was a million times worse than what you think it is. Code Brown. I was in Browntown, baby. I had booked a 7-day staycation, and this guy starts walking down, and I'm hearing footsteps. And I'm thinking, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. There's no way. I'm in a bush, and I've called my brother. SOS backup. Right? Called in AC 130. I need SOS. Exfil here, and he says, I'm coming down. He thought I was in a car crash. I was like, nah, mate, I just shit my pants. He came down and rescued me, but this guy got there first, and he says, you all right, mate? I said, I just I've just being sick, mate. Just being sick. As my ankles are as my boxers are around my ankles, and I'm sitting holding them. Oh mate, it was not the one. And the guy just looks at me as if, what the fuck have I just witnessed? There's no way that guy was having a belter of a day after that. Like, Jesus, nothing says rise and shine like some absolute nonce crapped his pants in a bush at 5 in the morning. But anyway, my I set out on Saturday. I'll get the story. I set out on Saturday, and my stomach actually felt great. I thought, okay, the most that I've ran to was 30K, and I'm thinking, or it was 35K. I'm thinking, okay, 35K, 80K, bit of a stretch, but I can make it work. And I had only done 3 runs in the last 6 weeks. That's not a lot. And I'm going to be really straight with you. I was just doing my normal bodybuilding training. I was away in Ibiza, and then I was away with my family, and then I got sick for 2 weeks, and then I was in Colorado. And do you know what? In the back of my head, I did honestly think, I don't care. I am going to do this anyway. And I spoke to my coach about it. My coach thinks very similar to me. He says, Daniel, I'd actually be quite disappointed if you were really prepared for it. He says, what do you mean, man? And he says, this is going to be a true test for you now. This is really going to show you who you are. And you don't know who you are. Like, you don't, like, if you're listening to this podcast, when was the last time that you put yourself in such a difficult situation? You voluntarily suffered so much that you were exposed to who you are. I think when you do something so difficult, it strips you down to your core and it shows you just what kind of guy you are. And I think when I started doing the ice baths, I think when I started doing, when I started doing those, I realized I'm a bit of a bitch. I am a bit of a bitch and I need to toughen up and I need to callous my mind here. I need to do difficult things. And admittedly, I grew up really cushy childhood. Family are fantastic. Best people on 2 feet. I never really struggled. And then obviously I left school, made a balls up my exams, yada, yada, yada. But I never really needed to use much willpower in anything until it started, until it got to me dieting for the first couple of times, and it was grim. Didn't happen. And that's something I want you to remember, that see, when you, if you see me or another person put up a photo of their physique and you think, oh, I'm nowhere near that, for years I made a balls up with my diet. I remember nailing my diet, pushing my first meal back till 1 o'clock, and then I would go into the kitchen at night. All my family, they're in the living room, and I would go into the kitchen and I'm like, some Cocoa Pops in there, baby. I would say, fuck the scales. I'm just dumping this whole thing in this bowl. And I would go to town on that. It was red panty night. It was party time. I would be balls deep in that bowl of Cocoa Pops. And as soon as I hit the bottom of that bowl, I'm thinking, sign me up for another, baby. And I just kept going. I would have balls my diet up all the time. And then my problem that I have with people in the fitness industry or in general with social media, people take these little issues and they turn them into problems, right? I would have had a bowl of Cocoa Pops and I would have had another and then another. And people were like, you have a binge eating problem. No, I didn't. I was just starving myself in a deficit. And it is your body's normal response to try and bring you back to equilibrium. And that's what I want people to realize. Just because you've eaten more food or you felt uncontrollable, all that is feedback. When you go so far one way, your body there will always be an equal and opposite reaction to try and bring you another way. And the only way that when you finish a diet that you can manage that is either one, if someone's giving you clear, structured protocols, they're holding you accountable to it and you know what to do, when to do. Very simple, right? When you have someone in your corner. And that's like with our guys, right? We'll take them through that. A reverse diet, like once you finish the diet. But I balls it up so many times. I was in an eating disorder. You know, maybe when I was younger, there might have been an issue there, right? I was fucking crazy. But there's always an equal and opposite reaction. So just a reminder of that. See, when you see that, people dieting and then they end up just eating loads of shite. It's like, no, mate, you just put yourself in really stupid environments after starving yourself, dieting. What do you expect? Anyway, so ultramarathon. I set off to do 10 to 15k and listen, baby, I'm cruising. I go to Belfast and I'm doing it there. Listen, let's be real here. Everybody speeds up when there's other people there. I speed up. I'm seeing hot chicks cutting down. I'm joking. I'm not a perv. No, hot chicks. Oh, I'm the worst. Oh, that's like Brian in America calling them babes. I said, listen, lad, you need 60 hours community service just for saying that word alone. Anyway, you do speed up when other people are there. Let's be real. So I thought, I'm going to go to Belfast, 15k. I got 15k in and I'm 7 days out from the ultramarathon. I thought, right, okay, I at least need to get to 40 so that I can go into the ultra knowing that I've done half. So I do 15. I get the 30k, and bear in mind, I just went out for a 15, so I have no gels, no little wee vest on me, and I mean, the vest you lose over anyway, so it's probably a good thing. No vest on me, no nothing. All I had was the beauty of shops there in Belfast, so I was banging Lucozade. I banged one Lucozade Sport every 45 minutes and 2 Squares bars, and I was actually quite impressed. I just unscrewed the cap and I chinned it in one go, and then I went off again. every 45 minutes, and then every 3 hours I would have had like half a chicken sandwich. There was definitely more optimal ways to do it, but this was the plan of action that I crafted in my head. And I'll be really straight. When I was like 10K in, I was thinking, I could just do this today. I could just bang this out today. Yeah. And I actually, you guys know that I love talking to ChatGPT. I ChatGPT'd. The furthest I've ever run's 30K. I might bang out this 80K. We're kind of tight like that. We go back and forth, and it says, "I did highly advise you not to do this. It's like I love your ambition, but I highly advise you not to do this. I would do 40K today, and then take a break, rest up, and go for the 80 next week." And I thought, you cheeky bastard, doubting me. I thought, game on, all right. My mum and dad, my brother, they also said, don't be stupid, push it back. You haven't done enough training for this. You think you can do anything. And listen, I am stubborn at times. Like, I'll be honest, I am stubborn. I am very set in my own ways. And yeah, fair enough. But, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I'm set in my own ways, because I never used to be like that. I used to be what people call a people pleaser. And when people say that, I'm like, dude, stop labeling yourself with something negative like that. I had a conversation with one of our girls, and she was having a problem with saying no to drinking. And I said, what do you mean you're saying? What do you mean? And someone put a drink in her hand, or someone says, you want to go for a pint? She would struggle to say no. And I'm thinking, you're seriously gonna leave your confidence up to chance because you can't say no. I said, do you want to do it? Do you want to go and get on the pints twice a week? She says, no, of course not, because I'm dying. She was having panic attacks. She wasn't feeling great. And I said, listen, I care about you so much. I don't want you to feel that way. And I was in the same position years ago. I would have struggled to say no. I would have went to the opening of a freaking envelope. You name it, I was there. You get a Z-list player, I was still there, baby. Z-list player on a Monday night, 2 pints, please. I would have showed up to anything. And I don't know where that came from, that I just wanted to, I wanted to be the life and soul of the party, didn't want to let people down. And the funny thing is that when I was the fun guy, when I was the life and soul of the party, I was the most miserable that I've ever been. And then when I became the boring guy, when I said no to nights out, when I put myself first, it's the happiest I've ever been, the most successful, the most content that I've ever been in my life. It's funny that, right? So just something to think about. Your boundaries and your standards, they really dictate your life. And you need to ask yourself, am I living for myself or for other people? See if you have friends that will not support you when you say you don't want to drink. Fuck your friends. They ain't real ones. And listen, I don't mean, oh yeah, I'm not drinking. They're like, oh, go on. I mean friends that will take it personally and that will have a pop at you. Here's the thing. If you don't want to drink and your friends, that there's a plan, there's a family do, you say, I'm not drinking. I've got loads of work in the morning. I'm not drinking. I want to wake up on Monday and feel fresh. You say it with chest, because that sounds so much more direct. People will be like, oh shit, right, okay. Than saying, oh no, I'm trying to be good. See this? I'm trying to be good. What? All that does is just leave the door open for people to try and convince you to do it. And people don't like it when you're on your A game and you're saying no to things because you're dialing in. And they'll try and pull you down. And that doesn't mean that people are bad people or that they don't love you. That's just how we are as humans. But here's the thing. If you want to get ahead in your life, if you want to separate yourself from the pack and you feel like the one thing that's holding you back is drinking, then listen, you need to grow a spine. You need to learn to say no. And you just need to suck it up, because do not drink salt water just because you're thirsty. Is it difficult to sit in on a Saturday night when all your mates are out? Yeah. But suck it up. Because if boredom is the price that you need to pay to get to where you want to go in your life, to get the physique that you're after, to get lean, to build the business so you can get up the next morning, feel fresh and get after it, then I think that's a pretty good price to pay. Alcohol is always going to be there. Nights out will always be there. But the opportunity for you to be the best version of you, it might not. So grab that with two hands while you have it. So, ultramarathon, we'll get back to it. Holy shit. Anyway, about the people pleasing. By the way, the person, the client that I was talking about, she has completely transformed. She is now in a place where she says no. She puts herself first. She's now feeling the best she's ever been. She can't believe it. Her life's completely changed. So it's amazing. Instead of just, and that's the beauty of what I do with our guys, we don't just solely focus on giving somebody a training plan. We look deeper, because I was realizing, right, okay, why is this individual not adhering to their diet? Let me look at their boundaries that they put in place. And we actually looked a little deeper from an identity perspective. And when we realized what it was, people pleasing tendencies, and we worked on that, and I challenged her on that, and I give her a short challenge this weekend, and she went and nailed it. And as soon as you do something once, you think, oh, I could do that again. That was not bad. And the more you do something, the more automatic it becomes. So there you go, my friend. So I got the 20K, and I thought, right, I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to blitz this. And I said, hold on, if I'm at 20, I could do 30. And if I get to 30, well, I can get to 40. And that's halfway. And I'm going to be disabled anyway. So I might as well just do it. And I was running around Belfast. There was no route. I had no plan whatsoever. And someone says, like, what did you think about when it came to, like, doing the full race? And to be honest, I just tricked my brain into getting to the next 10K. And it's what I say to you guys all the time. How can you make it easier? Oftentimes people don't complete these challenges because they tap out mentally. What I do is two things. Number one, I set small challenges. I set little small milestones. Get to this venue. Just get to this venue. When you get here, you can have a look at it. Just get to the next 5K and being pleased that I got there. When you set many milestones, you have a spring in your step and you get wind in your sails. And it's like with your fat loss as well, or with your business, how can you make more mini milestones? Because if you don't, the whole process is just one long slog to the finish line, and then you get there and you realize I have a shit time throughout. So that, and also, I just said, I'm just going to get the 40K and I'll finish there. I knew deep down I wanted to go all in and finish it, but I just said, no, you know what, I'll get the 40K and then I'll finish. And I got the 40K and I thought, no, I'll get the 50K. I'll close it out at 50. And then I was running through Belfast. I ran to a place called Jordanstown along the coast. And my brother, he met me, gave me my little vest, gave me 2 sachets. He gave me a bagel with jam, and I'm not gonna lie, my knees were fucked. My knees were getting tight, and I thought, okay, it was either my ankles or my knees were gonna go. I knew it was one of them, and I was praying that it was gonna be my knees, because if my ankles go, yeah, I'd be feeling it. But my brother met me, and he forgot the straps. He forgot the lifting, or not the lifting straps. He forgot the tape, because I was gonna tape my knee up, so that it could barely move, so that the joint was stable. Because if it's stable, then the pain's not gonna be as great. He forgot it, so I thought, fuck. I've got to run another friggin' hour and a half before you can meet me, because along the coast there's nowhere that he could pull in. It's just along some path, some towpath. Anyway, he met me about 2 hours later, taped my knees up, and then I had like 50K. I was at like 50K. I had 30 to go. And in my head I'm thinking, oh, this is a breeze. I got it. And then when it started to get darker. It got to kilometer 60, 65, and in my head, I was like, oh, this is, I have this breeze now. But from 65, my knees were agony. They really were. Like, they started to get really sore. But I feel like I have a pretty strong pain tolerance from doing the ice baths. And also, I watched the movie called Unbroken, and it was about this Olympic athlete in 1936 during the war, and his plane went down. He was stranded out at sea for 30 days. He lived. Some of his men died, and he then on day 30 got taken in by the Japanese. They were sailing past and they took him in. He was a Japanese prisoner of war. He got absolutely tortured, beaten, nearly died time and time again. And this guy, before he set off to go to the Olympics, his brother, who trained him up, he says it's going to be hard. And his brother said to him, pain is temporary, but glory lasts forever. And that's something that stays with me, right? It's one of them like American cliche sayings. Pain is temporary, but glory lasts forever. And I kept telling myself that. I was like, glory lasts forever. And like honestly, like I was sitting picturing myself at kilometer 80, just just shouting out that I've done it. I was picturing that in my head the whole way through. And knowing that pain is temporary, knowing that tomorrow you're gonna be, tonight you're gonna be in the hot shower, you're gonna be in your warm cozy bed anyway, it's gonna be over. But how you feel when you get into that bed is down to what you do now. And Goggins talks about that, the split second decision. Like throughout that 10 hours there is freaking thousands and thousands of seconds. It takes 1 second to quit, but that 1 second decision will last a lifetime. Knowing that you didn't follow through, knowing that ate away your confidence. And I always say this, guys, that there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing you can't accomplish. And somebody said, "Well, Daniel, how did you do it? Like mentally, like how did you just say fucking gonna grin and bear it?" And I know I've said this beforehand, but it's probably one of the strongest mental frames I've ever had. Like I think about my mum and dad, and I think about if my mum and dad were at kilometer 80 and there was guns to their head, and if I didn't finish, their heads get blown off. I'm thinking about this as a real life situation. What would I do? Could you finish it? Like if I like you might be sitting there thinking, "Oh, I couldn't do an ultra marathon." Okay, who do you love most in your life? If there was a gun to their head and they would die, would you finish it? I'm not saying you need to get a great time or anything like that. Would you finish it? Of course you would. And the sheer fact that you now realize that you could finish an ultramarathon, no matter your skill level, no matter if you ran in the past year or not, that I think that's pretty amazing. I think that just shows you what you can do, because you realize now that it's not can you do it, it's do you have a strong reason for it? Do you want to do it? Do you want it bad enough? And that's called cultivating necessity, making your goal a life or death. And I think when you can bring that towards your goal, there's nothing that you can't do. When it's the only option, there's nothing that you can't do. But when I was running, okay, let me fast hop here. I'll tell you what I was listening to. So let me pull my phone up. I had, okay, a classic. Tom Odell, Another Love, obviously. Je te laisserai demain. Listen to it. Hold on. Okay, that's a banger. These are all just heartbreak songs, even though I mean there's no heartbreak going on. Yeah, these are heartbreak songs. What else? Oh, classic Iris, the Goo Goo Dolls, obviously. We have got Ophelia. We've got Yellow by Coldplay. We have got all the Cigarettes After Sex songs are great. My Tears Are Becoming a CM83. These are just bangers. Tom Odell, Another Love. I could move mountains if you played that song. Like, what's your top set song? I want to know. Mine's Tom Odell, Another Love. No matter how, if you're heartbroken or you're in the best relationship of your life, you put that song on, you cultivate necessity, baby. I'm telling you, you can move mountains. All right, let me look at my laptop. There's a few questions that people ask me, and I just wrote them down here. Like I never have any notes, but I just I thought I'd write them down. But anyway, I'll continue with the story and then I'll look at those after. So I got to kilometer 65 and I was running through Belfast. My digestion, that was one thing about it. So I was worried about my digestion because the week prior to that, I was actually really struggling to keep any food down. And I haven't really spoken about that much, but since I was like 17, I've had a lot of issues with my stomach, and I will be honest and say that I try and put it to the back of my head, and it's probably not the right way to approach it. And I probably put it at the back of my head because I've been seen by so many doctors. I've had so many blood tests. I've been tested for so many things, and they can't do anything about it. They gave me medication years ago, and it just didn't work. And the only thing that worked was taking Imodium, the anti-diarrhea tablets. And I remember it actually started when I was 17, and I remember it was in history class, and my mum used to give us. She used to give us ham and cheese sandwiches with butter on it, and she would give us a packet of ready salted crisps or bikers. Biker breath, nightmare. And then she would give us a dairy milk chocolate bar, and I had my break just normal, and I'm sitting in history class after break, and then all of a sudden, what's good? Look at that for an outfit. You're on the podcast, Gary.
You sure it's not getting uploaded and wrecking our Wi-Fi, lad?
No, I'm recording it today. He shits the bed when I upload it when he's doing work.
I mean, he wrecks the Wi-Fi then.
What are you doing?
I'm just making a chicken broth sandwich.
Gary's got the runs at the moment, so it's a hard life.
Right, adios.
Gary's first appearance in the podcast. Man rocks up in tartan PJs at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Gary's my older brother, by the way. Gary doesn't like getting featured as much, but there we go. Good lad. Anyway, so I was sitting in class, and I remember just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to Browntown here, fellas. And the classic classroom etiquette, put your hand up if you need to go to the toilet. The teachers, did you not need to go on your lunch break? Shut up, bitch. My teacher was actually lovely. She was the best teacher of all time. I didn't say that. But I literally just sprinted out of class, and I ran to the disabled bogs. And I mean, the rest of the story is history. The rest is history. And that was fine. Listen, one off, and it kept happening, with just chocolate. And I thought, chocolate's maybe not agreeing with me. And then it happened with orange juice. Every morning when we woke up, I would have went downstairs. It's actually a really nice memory. Would have went downstairs. Me, my older brother Gary, and then we would have had Cocoa Pops or Weetabix with sugar, and then we would have had orange juice, and then we would have had 2 slices of toast after it as well. And Connor, or Dean as I call him, he always used to come down, and Dad would make his breakfast. He made his breakfast up until like 16. I remember sitting there in disbelief when he was 16 and being like, this guy is actually going to be the most dependent kid of all time. You're making his toast at 16 years of age. Anyways, so I've had this problem for years. I've seen loads of doctors about it. I was meant to get a camera shoved up my ass before COVID. Obviously, COVID hit, and after COVID, I just kind of forgot about it. But the only thing that kept my stomach at bay was taking Imodium. And when I say, like, anything will make me go to the toilet, even if I have a slice of toast, I'll end up shitting my pants. And listen, I don't usually talk about this because obviously, one, it's crass. Not that I care about that, but sometimes I'm just thinking, do people want to hear that? Is that nice to hear? But then I was speaking with one of my guys the other day, and he says, you should talk about that in your podcast. It's something that I've definitely struggled with over the years, and I suppose it's part of my life now. But like a lot of people, anytime I tell them, they're like, "Mate, what the fuck?" Don't feel as comfortable when I'm in situations where there's not a toilet close by. That's the first thing I look at, is like, right, where's the toilet in this place? I sometimes I go to the toilet so much that it just flushes the nutrients out of my body, and I become very run down. And I ended up that's how like we ended up noticing it. I was going to the toilet so much when I was in school that I was flushing all the nutrients out of my body, and I started to get run down. I started to get sick, and I was missing days of school. It happened like every 2 weeks. I was just missing days and days of school, and I mean that's not a reason why I fucked up my A levels. I just didn't study. But it just went on, and I remember, like, I take 2 Imodium every morning as if they're just vitamins. And I remember calling up a doctor about 3 years ago, and I told him that, and he says, "Can I be honest with you, mate?" I was like, "Yeah." He says, "You're at a very high risk of cardiac arrest." And I'm thinking, "Wowie whoa, what?" And I was thinking, well, goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friends. You guys listen to the podcast. You can take my Tassie. You can split it between you. So it got pretty bad a couple of weeks ago, and I have now booked I'm going to a private hospital to get it sorted. So yeah, anyway, that's why I decided to do the ultra. on Saturday. A big reason why. Also, I think there was just a burning desire in my head to just prove it to myself because my family and ChatGPT told me that I couldn't do it or I shouldn't do it on the day because I'm not ready. And I thought, fuck that. So, a reminder: the ducks don't need to be in line. I say this all the time. They do not need to be in line. Stop waiting for shit to be perfect. Oh, but like my food planner, this, that, and the other. Mate, shut up. Go to the shop, buy microwave rice, buy a packet of chicken, fire it in the microwave, fire some nando sauce on it. Done. It ain't that difficult. And listen, people are like, oh, I didn't have my food bought, so like I had to eat 47 donuts. Deal with the hunger. Have a zero sugar drink and go to the shop later on. Whatever. People overcomplicate things, and I was this guy as well, but it doesn't need to be complicated, okay? Gosh, we're just dropping bombs this potty. What did I hope to? So yes, I was listening to those heartbreak songs. I also listened to David Goggins. I actually like listening to him when I'm running. It just fires me up. David Goggins on Chris Williamson's podcast, and I suppose the one thing which I took away from that, from the run as well, that you might not be able to do the next 10K. You might not be able to take on the next big challenge, but you can always take one step. You can always do the one thing that's in front of you. You might not be able to take two, but you can always take one. And that's reassuring because you only need to take the step that's in front of you. And once you do that, roger that, you go again, you copy and paste that, and you don't stop. And that's all I thought about. Just keep one step in front of the other. That's it. See, when people tap out of these things because they think about the whole race, they think about 10 hours long. I didn't think about 10 hours long. I don't think about doing a whole gym session when I can't be bothered. I say, I'm going to go do one set. See, if I want to leave after one set, I can. Now, over my dead body, would I ever go to the gym and leave? But yeah, that's that you trick yourself into showing up. And I actually seen on Instagram the other day, a coach shared it, and I really like this guy. I think he's really great person, and I have a lot of time for him. He posted something that it was, I went to the gym the other day and I left after 17 minutes or 7 minutes or something like that. For me, there's too many emotions involved there at play. There's too many, like, I am massive on the fuck your mood, follow the plan. Always, right? Because your mood is like the weather. You wake up, it's gonna be sunny some days. You're gonna be fucking firing. You're gonna feel great. You're gonna feel ready to rock. And there's other days where it's pissing down, it's grey, it's thunderstorms and lightning. You don't get to choose what happens with the weather, but you still show up to work, right? So why is it any different? If you feel shit, who cares? Put your big boy pants on and go anyway. If you need to trick your brain to showing up, do it. And just focus on the next step in front of you. I would like to think like there's two sides to me. I am a very empathetic individual with my guys, but I am also very cutthroat as well, because there are some things that don't need to be deeped. There are some things in life that should be taken seriously and others that should just not be deeped. And it depends what day you get me on. If you're one of my clients and you're listening to this, you probably know what I'm talking about. And I have written down here. Someone asked me, what did you actually want to prove to yourself? Like, what were you trying to prove? And I think I was just trying to prove that I'm the guy that follows through. I'm the guy that sees things out and can do hard things. And I think when you know that you can do hard things, then you're good. And I've never said this before, and I don't know if my family listen to this podcast, but this is going to go deep here. And listen, switch it off if you've not got a set of balls. People ask for for why I do what I do. And when I said about cultivating necessity, I cultivated this. I thought about this, and I have never been able to not show up because of it. And sometimes I don't like talk. I don't mention it, because it's probably not nice to hear. But I'm well aware, right? There's gonna come a time where my mom and dad, they're not gonna be on this earth. I'm gonna get a phone call someday, and one of them is gonna be gone. I know that day is coming. I'm not saying that anytime soon, right? But I'm saying in my existence, that day is inevitable. And who I am on that day is down to what I do now. And if I fall at the hurdle of the alarm going off and I want to sleep in, that's not good enough. Because what happens when you get that phone call and that person's gone and your mother needs you, or your father needs you, and they need you to be a pillar of stability? But even when things were great, you couldn't even get up at your alarm. You couldn't even go to the gym. Well, you know it's going to make you feel better because you wanted to sit in your ass and watch TV. That's the conversation I have with myself. And I wholeheartedly believe that's the reason why I show up with conviction. And I want you to. I want you to think about what's going to make this a necessity for you. What's a strong reason for doing it? And I know that if I can do hard things like getting up at 4:35 in the morning and doing a cold dip, going to the gym when I'm tired, I have difficult conversations, like for example, my brother wasn't well last night, shitty trunks there. He got up at 3 in the morning, woke everybody up. I didn't get back to sleep and I just got up at 3 o'clock and I just cracked on, worked until 11, and then I got up, went to the gym. I was tired, cracked on. There was a conversation that I needed to have, a difficult conversation today, and I had it. Nothing is going to change. I'm just checking the time here because I have a call with my class at 5. But when you do those difficult things, you're preparing yourself for those dark days because it will come. And if you can go through voluntary suffer now, it means that you will not suffer involuntarily as great a deal as you would have down the line. And I think that is one of the most powerful things that you could give yourself and your family. Insurance that you can be a pillar of stability. And you might be sitting thinking, shit, that's kind of dark, that's heavy. That's what I think about. I have a reason, 50 reasons why I do what I do. My coach made me do it one time, and this is like I went off with my calories one day, maybe 2.5 years ago. I had a bowl of Cocoa Pops, right? I was telling you, they get me going. And my coach, he says, right, you're not clear enough on what you're doing. I says, what? It's a fucking bowl of Cocoa Pops. Relax, mate. And he says, I want you to write out 50 reasons why you're doing what you're doing with your gym training, with this diet, with your business. Why are you doing what you're doing? And I got like 5 in, right? I want you to do this. It's probably one of the most powerful things that I've ever done. The most powerful thing I think that I've ever done, because it stays top of mind for me all the time. I got 5 in and they were kind of surface level. I got 10 in and then I'm like, right, that's enough. I can't do any more. And he says, you don't stop until you get 50. And he says, you'll get to the stage where it finally clicks and you'll keep writing. And it finally got that stage. I stared at the page and I just kept going. No phone, no phones in the room, no nothing. And I just kept going. And that was one of those reasons for that inevitable day. Who are you going to be? And if I can do an 80-kilometer ultramarathon, if I can feel so much pain in my knees, in my hips, if I can be so tired after 10 hours of run with such little prep, then I know that when I get faced with extreme hardship down the line, that I am going to be above water. I'm not saying that I'm going to freaking jump, I'm going to do crazy things, or I'm going to be this or that. I just want to be above board so that I can be there for my family. And if that's too deep for you, cool. But that's me being honest, and I'm really being honest and transparent in this. And that's all I told myself throughout it. I thought, I wanted to do this challenge because I wanted to fight some demons. I wanted to fight demons because I wanted to find out who I was, and I didn't get to the stage where I was fighting demons. And I think that's probably just because, I've challenged myself before, and I don't know what challenge is going to reduce me to that level, but I want to keep searching for that. And I don't know, maybe I don't know. Still trying to navigate that, but yeah, I don't need to navigate anything actually. One thing that I think about, I said to one of my boys the other day on the phone, I said, I think you have too much time in your hands because things that aren't even problems, you are making them into problems. People in the, I was speaking to a guy in the gym today, David actually, he made a really good point that people just create problems, and we live in the mental health era where people they just create these ideas that life is much worse than it is, and they sit and think so much about their mental health that they end up creating these issues that they don't even have. I've got this, I've got ADHD, I've got. Shut up, man. Shut up. You're just spending too much time on your phone. Oh, I am anxious, I'm depressed. You don't go to the gym. You don't feel your body right. You stay up late watching Netflix. You go out and you take drink and drugs at the weekend. You're not feeling yourself, man. Do better. And that's something which I've said before. Are you depressed or do you just not look after yourself? I said that in a previous podcast, and I really want you to think about that. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, like, is there anybody in your life, like, that isn't in a good spot? Are they? They're not down and out. What are their? What can they change? What can they change in their lives? I'm a big believer of getting out of your head and into your body, and that's why I will say when I'm going through something stressful, like the other week, I says out of the head and into the body, Daniel. Let's go. So I finished. Towards the last 2.5, 3.5 hours, I just had no music, no nothing on. I was just raw dogging it in the dark. And my dad, he came and met me. So lovely of him. He was at the I was gonna say finish line. There was no finish line. He was there at my car, and he came and met me at 11 o'clock at night. And he was sitting there with his phone, and it was so nice of me. He said, like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." And I know, like, it might not be a big deal to some people, but for me it was. For me it was, and it's so nice that my parents were actually, they're really, like, they are so supportive and so loving like that. I could really feel that, and it actually makes you feel so grateful. So grateful. And the next day, holy shit. And it was when you do that, when you do a run like that, when you're running for so long and your body's not used to it, like, your digestion, it's not like it shuts down, but it just down regulates. I couldn't, I wasn't hungry. I was having no, like, my bowels there's nothing going on down there whatsoever. And even the next day, my bowels were messed up because you could just tell they were going again, and your body just tries to bring you back to equilibrium. And I couldn't get out of bed on the Monday. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was a price that I was going to pay, but I couldn't move. I literally needed to use crutches, or like this big stock, or this pole, to walk about. I needed literally, like, to hold the sides to be able to sit down on the toilet. It was that bad. It was just my ankles that were fried, and my hips, but my hips were actually fine. It was just my quads, and my quads, knees, ankles. And then the day after, it was much better. And I woke up the day after, and I literally felt like I'd been thrown in a swimming pool. So I woke up, and, like, I was drenched, like, dripping with sweat. I don't sweat in my sleep, but I was dripping with sweat. And yeah, I mean, I just knew that was my body going back to normal. And yeah, that's that was probably the worst of it. I just tried to eat bland foods and stay off caffeine. And then, it's Thursday now. I've done the run on Sunday, and I'm 100% today. Like, but the back of my knee's fucked, but it'll be fine in a couple of days. I can walk normally now. So yeah, guys, that was the ultramarathon. The next plan is maybe doing a. Well, next plan is just, going back to my normal training. I just want to start going more size, and I just want to focus on what I'm doing with our guys, helping change their lives. And just a reminder, like, just a reminder that no matter how busy you are or what you've got going on, you can do hard things. You can achieve things that you never thought once possible. We have one of our guys. I just posted him on my story, Mike Conway, absolute killer. Probably not listening to this, but he's a father. He is partner of a law firm. If anybody has an excuse to be busy, it's him, and he's getting after it. He looks immaculate in his 40s, ripped with six-pack abs, and he was nowhere near that. He was far off the mark, trust me. And he looked like he never even hit a gym in his life. I don't even think he had years ago. And he's got an ultra marathon coming up in February. So it's cool. It's cool to see that other people are putting themselves out there. And I want you to think of what you could do in the next year. Like, is that I want to challenge myself and post every day for 100 days in social media? Is that I want to do an ultra marathon or a marathon? Is that I want to set myself a goal of doing a 10K? Or is it I want to get six-pack abs? What is it? But don't sell yourself short. Don't shortchange yourself, because you have so much more in the locker than you actually realize. And that's what I wanted to show people, that I haven't done a marathon before, but you can dream bigger, that you can be bigger, you can do more, be more. And that's what this podcast is about. And I appreciate every single one of you that listens to this podcast. I mean it with every single bit of my heart. I honestly feel it feels a lot more intimate when I'm speaking to you guys than it does when I'm like making reels on Instagram. I don't know why. I suppose because I probably share so much more here and it's so much deeper. But I just really appreciate you. And if you have listened this far into the podcast, if you could please, I would love if you could shoot me a message. I will get back to you personally. I'll voice note you back. And I would just love to hear some of your feedback in the podcast. Let me know what episodes you enjoy, or maybe what you enjoyed out of this podcast or took away from it, or maybe what you'd like to hear before, because I value each one of your opinions. And yeah, it was an insane experience, a really really good experience. And I you know, to be honest, did I feel like elated or anything like that? No, I didn't. I was buzzing it when I finished it, but it was really just a case of, okay, just I checked the box. That's it, job done, and back to the drawing board. So, guys, stretch the fabric of what you can do. You've got so much more in the locker. Don't put yourself in a box. And I appreciate you. Love you loads as always, and I will catch you in the next one. Let's go, baby.